You're listening to The David Knight Show.
Let's take a look at Bernie Sanders. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about him and the fact that he's now a millionaire. As CNN put it, he is in the category of the super rich, part of the 1%. And he's got a lot of guilt about this, kind of. It was an interesting article from the Mises Institute talking about that. But, you know, I look at this guy and I think about his shame of being rich. It made me think about Fiddler on the Roof. But I guess we could redo this as Fiddler on the Left. Because, you know, in Fiddler on the Roof, you have Tevye, a classic version that I'm familiar with is Zero Mostel. You know, he goes, "Dear God, you've made many, many poor people. I realize it's no shame to be poor, but it's no great honor either. So couldn't you make me rich?" Well, Bernie is the fiddler on the left. And so his is exactly the opposite. It's kind of like, you know, I realize, well, he doesn't pray to God. He's an atheist, right? So whatever he's, I realize, dear fate, that you have privileged many, many people as rich. I now realize that it's no shame to be rich, but it's no great honor either. Not for Bernie, not for the headline virtue-signaling Marxist that wants the Democrat nomination. It's a very uncomfortable position for him to be in. He has to explain this. How did he get so wealthy? Well, it turns out, he says, I wrote a best-selling book. If you write a best-selling book, you can be a millionaire too. In other words, as Mises said, I made my money fair and square, so quit hassling me about it. Or, to put it another way, he's appealing to the fact that he got his money based on merit. Merit. I didn't think that had a place in the worldview of the Democrat, Socialist, Marxist Party. You know, we were told by Barack Obama, you didn't build that. Shut up. You got a small business? You didn't build that. You got a best-selling book? You didn't write that, Bernie. And he probably didn't. He probably had somebody ghostwrite it for him. Probably somebody at the college that his wife got a lot of money from as well. I wonder if her tax returns were involved in there with Bernie, if they are married filing separately. But, you know, he's very uncomfortable with his status as a rich man because he's the fiddler on the left. And as Mises points out, this idea of I worked for it, I earned it, really puts him in an uncomfortable position there on the left. One of the central myths, says the Mises Institute, of the Bernie Sanders wing of the American left is that people who become rich do it on the backs of the poor. Or, you know, they just were given it, you know, by fate and privilege, right? So he's putting out the idea that he earned this. You can be a millionaire too if you write a book, right? You can make a lot of money, in other words, if you work at it. That's what he's saying. I'm seeing Bernie do a major pivot, trying to go a lot more mainstream. That's one of the reasons why Gerald Celente said yesterday, he said, you know, he'd picked Beto O'Rourke because all of the left was consolidating around him. But when you look at these major pivots from Bernie Sanders towards more mainstream thought, understand, folks, that it's just for the election. He is still a Marxist socialist. He always will be. He hasn't learned anything, frankly, except how to disguise what he's really about. This is a guy who I called him, in the last election, I called him Bernie Sandernista because he could see no wrong in Nicaragua. And even though you had mass murderers down there, he was more than willing to give them a pass because they wrote poetry. He was very impressed by that when he went there. This is a guy who, on his honeymoon in 1986, remember the Soviet Union fell in 1989. It was already a rotten hulk. And the crimes of Marxism and the failures of Marxism, the economic failure of it, besides the moral bankruptcy and the mass murder of Joseph Stalin, were well known, had no defenders in the West at all, except Bernie, who went there for his honeymoon. He is married to this, just like Buttigieg. Buttigieg wants to virtue signal about his marriage and so forth. Well, you know, what Buttigieg is really married to is Marxism. He's married to the Democrat Party. He's married to the party that pushes infanticide. That's really what he's married to. And that's what Bernie Sanders is married to as well. So this is a big pivot for him. to push over to the idea that if you work hard for your money, you can earn it, like he did. But as the Mises Institute points out, what if everyone writes a best-selling book? Wouldn't that mean that some people have millions of dollars? What if not everyone? What if not everyone writes it, right? Because not everybody can, right? Is that fair? Is that fair that you and I can't write a best-selling book and make millions of dollars? That's unfair. We get smaller amounts of money if we write that all. So we have inequality there because not all of us can write a best-selling book. And quite frankly, the policies of the Democrat Party with all the mandates and the regulations are set up to saw off the lower rungs of the ladder of success, to make it more difficult for you. If you can't write a best-selling book, well, maybe you could make money by opening up a mom-and-pop store. Oh, no, you can pretty much forget about that. You can pretty much forget about that. One by one, the businesses that used to make Americans rich have been shut down by excessive regulation, by excessive mandates. And the Democrat Party is key in doing that, to shutting down the upward mobility. So now you still have politicians and celebrities who can become very wealthy in politics or in Hollywood. But for the rest of us, that doesn't really work, right? And then the other part of this is the fact that Bernie Sanders has $1 million, and that's a lot of wealth, but he's not talking about feeling so guilty about it that he's going to give it up. That's what his Marxism says, that you should not have wealth. He wants to take wealth. He's talking about redistributing wealth, folks, not just taxing your income, but redistributing your wealth that you've already paid taxes on. They've already taken half of it. Now he wants to take the other half of it. And then there's the no more wars stance. And Pat Buchanan wrote a very interesting article. Is Bernie stealing Trump's no more wars stance? He says, supported by a united Democrat Party on the Hill and an anti-interventionist faction of the GOP led by Senators Rand Paul, Mike Lee of Utah, they passed the War Powers Resolution Act. And, of course, Mark Meadows in the House, they were the Freedom Coalition, also supported that. But it was vetoed by President Trump, who called it a dangerous attempt to weaken his constitutional authority. No, it isn't. His constitutional authority is not to start wars all over the world and continue them going without any congressional authorization. President Trump's, your constitutional authority is to protect the borders of America. You got it exactly wrong, upside down. And Pat Buchanan says Trump may have just ceded the peace issue to the Democrats, and Bernie is happy to pick it up. If Sanders emerges as the nominee, we will have an election with a Democrat running on the no more wars theme that Trump touted in 2016. Trump will be left defending the bombing of Yemeni rebels and civilians by Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia. Folks, that is not just politically bankrupt. It is constitutionally and morally bankrupt. And they will seize that opportunity. It's a shame. We'll be right back.
The scientists at InfoWars Life have created a powerful formula for inflammatory support and joint support. Discover the power of ancient medicine with Bodies. Bodies contains one of the most potent forms of turmeric available. Turmeric has been used for thousands of years and is one of the most studied herbals today. It is well known in traditional medicine for its soothing properties. Our pure turmeric extract plus piperine from black pepper makes for optimal absorption to help boost and support your flexibility, mobility, joint function, immune system, and so much more. Regular turmeric root from the store only contains 1 to 5% of active ingredients, but our turmeric root extract contains over 95% of the active ingredients. Bodies combines turmeric with organic herbs such as spearmint, sage, lemon balm, and thyme to work synergistically for full body support. Try Bodies today at InfoWarsLife.com or call us at 188-253-3139.